It is early in the morning. I mean, absurdly early. I will show you my watch, how early it is. It's insane. You ever have one of those nights where you're just sitting looking at the clock, asking yourself, why am I not asleep? I should be asleep by now. I did a lot today. I should be tired. 12 a.m., 1 a.m., 2 a.m. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the project, it is almost 4 a.m. Glycine Combat Classic right there, by the way. Not really the focus of this video, as you'll see. But sometimes you're awake for a reason. Sometimes, in those quiet moments, when you have no distractions, you may do your best thinking. Sometimes, in those quiet moments, you may be touched by God. And He will tell you something that He was trying to tell you when you were busier, but you just didn't listen. You weren't available. You were distracted. You were working hard. Doing good things, by the way, but distracted. I do feel sometimes He has a hard time getting through to us because God's Spirit does not shout. That's not the way it works. It doesn't compete with loud music, video games, popular entertainment, anger, strife. He can't work under those conditions. He just can't communicate with you. Sometimes maybe you feel like you've prayed and you feel like you didn't get an answer for what you were asking for. And you felt frustrated. And you go through your checklist, your mental checklist of all the things that you felt like you should do before you ask God for a certain blessing. And you feel like you have them all ticked off. You're like, yeah, I did that. I worked hard. I improved my situation as best I could. And then, for whatever reason, you feel like your answer isn't coming. Maybe it is, and you're just not receiving the message. Now, I'm not advocating you stay up late at night. I'm just saying maybe in your life, create quiet moments for reflection and opportunities, more than anything, for God's Spirit to work with you. That's what He requires. He needs that. So, do that once in a while. How often, Nutnfancy? I would say at least once a week. You can do it while hiking out in the woods. You can do it just sitting in your car with the music off, in a quiet place, hopefully scenic. Doesn't have to be scenic, but peaceful. And listen for that still, calm voice that may come to you, as I felt like it did to me tonight. And that voice tells me, go do the video now. I'm like, why? Why do the video now? I can tomorrow. That's not what the voice said. He's like, get out of your bed. You're already awake. Go do the video. I'll tell you what to say. Now, I don't want to come in front of this camera and act like I'm some messenger from God. I'm not. I'm a goofball in a fake bunker filled with toys. Do the math. But I do feel like my heart is in the right place in these philosophy videos, and that is to help you, my friends, and to give you maybe a message you were too busy to receive earlier in the day. There's a lot of tumult in today's world. I've talked about it. I've ranted about it. I'm a good ranter. None of my rants will solve what's going on in this world. The issue is bigger than you and I. It's going to run its course. We've talked about this. It's going to do what it does. We should be participating in trying to defend God's plan along the way. We don't shelter ourselves away from the battles we see before us, and I'm talking about battles between good and evil. We participate in them, and we do our very best to protect good, to protect freedom of choice, to protect man's free agency, just like the plan of salvation dictates. That's what we do. We'll be judged on how well we did that, by the way. But we're not really talking about that in this video. We're talking about something much grander, much more durable, and something that you will take with you in the afterlife. And that is your spirit that you have created for yourself. I get messages in my Patreon donation service frequently. I'm sorry if I'm slow to answer. I do my best. I get some really quality messages there. Some have expressed a loss of hope, kind of, and I will circle back to some of that, about what is transpiring in these days that we live in. And they feel discouraged. And they feel like, what's the point? I mean, things just keep getting worse. Good keeps losing. Evil keeps winning. I thought a lot about those messages, of what I could say. And more in TMP, as I've done in some past philosophy videos, I can't stand up here and just say it of myself. Now, I feel like God's blessed me with a wonderful life experience, a wide variety of life experience, but I feel like He's done so I can make these videos. But it long ago came to a point when, and I'm sorry if tears come off and on because this is a real video, but I've come to a point when I can't use my own wisdom to help you guys. I need God's wisdom. And that's what this video is about. I also hear from plenty of Patreon members, and I'm sorry I'm focusing on Patreon. I love all you guys, whether you are a donor or not. But that's a smaller environment that I can communicate in, and it doesn't overwhelm me. So that's the only reason I'm saying that. But I see other videos they celebrate the fact that here in TMP we do talk about God openly. I'm not promoting one church over another. I'm promoting God and Jesus Christ. And maybe you don't believe, so just listen to this video. Tell me what your heart says as we go along and talk about these things. So I'd read these videos of dudes getting discouraged. And most of them I would answer in a temporal fashion. And by that I mean talking about politics, talking about how things are going to go as far as I think, which isn't worth much. And just telling them we need to have people help us, we need to have normies wake up, all that stuff. This video is not about that. So, but I felt like my responses were and are insufficient because it's putting the focus on this world. It's putting the focus on our short, mortal lives. Now, maybe you hear that and you go, oh my goodness, short mortal life? I feel like my life just goes on and on and on. It takes forever. It's just like days drag on. It seems like Groundhog Day. That's because you do not have God's perspective yet. You will, and when you pass into the afterlife, you will see and understand a lot more about how short and fleeting our little earth life was in reality. Right now, in the midst of our day-to-day operations, it's very camouflaged. Talk to some of your older folks in your family. Ask them if they felt like their life went by quickly. So my message to these friends of mine, I started adding things about God's plan. Because the real answer of how to have happiness in this world as it is right now, and it's probably going to get better. I'm sorry, not better. Well, eventually it will, but it's going to get worse. Put your focus on the heavens and on things that will go with you in the afterlife. Now, I'm a gear reviewer primarily, and probably following this video, you're going to see another gear review because that's mostly what I do. I'm not going to come up and give sermons all the time. I just do it infrequently. I try to make them count. I try to make them worthwhile, try to make them real and full of love. I think you should sense that. But I do talk about a lot of things, fun things. And I also incorporate a philosophy in those things of, and if you don't know this, maybe you haven't watched enough videos, but I have said, they're just things. Things are things. They won't go with us in the afterlife. Now, as dads, for instance, we can create memories with our things and we can hand them down to our children, and they become quite meaningful and in some ways spiritual, kind of like a watch. A watch Dad wore when he was flying combat missions for the Air Force, for instance, or when he was filming in front of TMP. I don't know. But that's kind of a different topic. They can gain great meaning that connects generations together, and it's just a token of connection, a token of love, a knife, a watch, a gun. But none of those things, as we know, are going to go with us. What's going to go with us? Our memories, our loves, probably our irritations are going to go with us because our spirit does not instantaneously change. I don't know if you knew that, but I'll tell you right now. It's basically the same as it is right now as you're sitting in your seat. You're going to think the same way. You're going to know what you know. And you'll go on and do different things. If you have addictions, those will go with you as well. Whatever kind of addiction, if you've had it with your mortal body, it will follow you, I believe, in the afterlife. That's why you want to remain addiction-free. If you have any sort of addiction, get off of it while you can. Be free. Don't allow anything to control the way you think, the way you act, and your destiny. Addictions can do that. I think all of us have someone in our lives that we know personally where that has happened. I have had family members with really bad addictions. I've talked about this in other philosophy videos. What's going to go with us? The cool watch, the cool plane, the cool car, the cool sword, all the knives, the backhoe. Nope. We go with us. Now, at first inspection, you hear that and you go, what? That's kind of a bummer, Nutnfancy. No, it isn't. Hear me out. Really, if you're working on your spirit, and that's the title of this video, more or less, I might change it, and you make that spirit Christ-like as best you can, as feebly, well, not as feebly as you can, but we are feeble. We're imperfect in our ways to become Christ-like. And you guys know what Christ-like means. You may hear that term and go, I don't even know what he's talking about. Oh, yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. You do know. You know what Christ-like means. Full of love, compassion, hope, service. Slow to anger. Can he anger? Yes. Slow to anger. Slow to offend. Christ-like. It's a hard process. I know because I've been attempting it for 58 years. Very, very imperfectly, I might add. Holy cow, am I imperfect? But I know that just like you know it. But I try. And I think I recommit myself most days. There's some days I don't. I'm too busy. I fall down. I'm sinning. I'm doing stupid things. I screw up. But then I think about it in those quiet moments. Man, I didn't really do so good in that situation. And how would you know if you've done good in a situation? Here, this is your simple measuring stick that I'll give you. If you're standing before God being judged, if he judges you, hey, you did good, you did good. But having acted a particular way, probably selfish, probably full of anger, probably unrighteous judgments, guilty as charged, do you think God would be happy with those if you're standing right before him? If you're standing before Christ? Whoa, that's a harsh measuring stick, Nutnfancy. Yeah. Imagine these lights in the bunker 1,000 times more bright. That is the glory of God. Prepare accordingly. In small steps. Small steps. Work on your spirit. Something you can and will, whether you want to or not, take with you to the next phase, the afterlife. Oh, you didn't know that? You thought you were going to be dead and then that is all said and done? No. No, this life is short. You've got a lot more living to do, bro. Your soul is eternal. You have a lot more living to do. Make this small world count as much as you can. Prepare your spirit. Work on the spirit. Work on something that matters. And here's the cool part about this task I'm giving you. I'm giving you. You probably are already doing it already. Is it will make you happy. In fact, it will give you transcendent happiness no matter what's going on in this world. Doesn't that sound crazy? But Nutnfancy, if all things blow up and they go into without rule of law, it's going to be impossible to be happy. Nope. It won't be impossible to be happy. You can be happy. Even those situations, it will be challenging. But you can and will be happy. I think that's what God wanted you to hear tonight. Part of it. The focus that you should be concentrating on is your spirit. When you look in the mirror, you ask yourselves, what kind of man am I? With everything I've said and done and judged in this life, will I be happy to stand before the judgment bar of God? If the answer is, well, I don't know if I'd be too proud to be recounting my life experiences because there's been some bad ones. Never too late to change, bro. Repent. Do better. That's why your heart's still beating. As long as you're living on this life, you can repent, do better. You will be forgiven of your sins. Work on that which counts, your spirit. And while you do this, again, you'll achieve that transcendent happiness and a calm will come over you. That's my promise I'll make to every one of you watching this video from start to finish. I promise you in the name of Jesus Christ that as you do this and you work on your spirit, becoming more Christ-like, a wave of happiness will permeate your soul. Doesn't matter what's going on. There's been people who have been in the worst circumstances of life. Some in prison. Some with nothing, destitute, lost everything, and they're happy. And I would submit to you humbly that I think one reason is because these individuals have cracked the code to happiness, and that is their focus really isn't on this world. I mean, by necessity, it often has to be, but their focus deeper is on their soul and trying to do good. That's really what we're talking about, is just trying to do good. The things we see transpiring in our, I will say, evil world today are discouraging you and me because we see what appears to be good losing. I'm not going to give any examples. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Good losing. And that you're saying to yourself, I do this. I was like, when is good going to start to win? And what may be a hard thing to accept is for God's judgments to play out the way he predicted they would play out. It might be a while, and you and I might experience some things that are going to get really crazy, really wacky, where, as I've said, the upside down of right is the order of the day. Now, I don't mention the adversary. You know who he is. I don't like to talk about him. He's real. He does his thing. He's trying to do his thing. He's trying to deceive as many of us as he possibly can. He's trying, and I'm going to get to this again, to discourage you and take you out of the fight. Not the fighting without rule of law, the fight for your soul. He's going to take you out to you improving your soul. Because he knows that is the realm of true happiness, and he wants to destroy that. He knows he doesn't have access to it. That he has to have your permission, your actions, not his, your actions, in order for that to happen. That's his goal. So now, in the world that we see, you're going to wake up after listening to this video, if you're up like me in the middle of the morning, and you're going to see those two opposing forces. You're going to see good, relatively speaking, evil, relatively speaking, and gradients in between for sure. We're not black and white in this world. And you'll see it happening. Concentrate on your soul. Yeah, it will transcend the sadness, the misery, the confusion of the day. Now, I'm not going to just talk in generalities. The Spirit told me to tell you a couple other things. Okay? This is my talking point right here. Literally, I have this. I can't even read some of my writing. Now, how do we do this? There's 100 ways, but I'm just going to concentrate on a couple so we're not here, all night. Too late, I guess. The first way is to go to that commandment in the 10 Commandments, and I'm only going to focus on one. And it's going to seem like it's a shot out of left field when I tell you this, of why I would speak about this. I don't know. It just came to me. One commandment you should focus on to get happier in life, to get freer in life, is thou shalt not covet. What? Thou shalt not covet. Have you ever wondered why that was one of the 10 Commandments? Why? I mean, kind of we've all gone through that, right, in life, that we see what we perceive to be injustice. Okay? And I've had guys in TMP contact me talking about their work, and they are hard workers. They're honest in their job. They show up reliably. They give value, as I've discussed, right? A few good workers. They give value to their employers. And they're frustrated that they're not seeing a reward. That this, jerk over here is getting it. Someone who is undeserving, dishonest, lazy, has pulled the wool over the eyes of the boss man, and they perceive injustice. And that guy, let's say he shows up in, a real fancy car. I'm not going to mention the model. Way better than, we'll call him John's car. He's like, my car's a piece of crap. I don't have money to buy that. And look at that. He just got the promotion that I deserved. Now, if we look at John's situation, would you blame John for feeling that way? That's why this commandment, if you don't really think about it and understand how the adversary works, that's why it seems a little bit confusing. Because you go, well, it's justified. It's a righteous judgment. He should get that stuff. But here's the deal. What happens when you go down that road of coveting, and I'm going to throw in the word envy. If you envy what your neighbor has, what your coworker has, what any other individual has, you open yourself up to, listen to what I'm going to tell you, darkness. Darkness. You have just given, you know who, a pathway into your thinking. And over you will sweep a dark cloud. And I wish I could say that literally. I can't. It's not actually going to be a dark cloud, but it will feel like it's a dark cloud. You'll be negative. You always see the negative in everything. You'll criticize everything and everyone. Why? Because you feel like you've been ripped off. That you should have been the one getting that promotion. Or maybe it's a neighbor. Maybe we're outside of work and you see your neighbor, same situation. Maybe what you know about your neighbor, not a good person. Maybe he gets his money in ways you don't respect. Not going to go into types of ways. You know what they are. But what happens to you is what we want to focus on, because that we can control, and that drives to how our own spirit is morphing, is maturing. Don't give a pathway of darkness into your soul. Keep it light. Keep it righteous. The reason God gave us, thou shalt not covet, is because he knows the end game of that pathway. He knows that people go down a pathway of coveting, of envying their neighbor, end up miserable, sad, bitter. And the very things that they were striving for, they give up on, because it also can lead, not always, can lead to loss of hope. Maybe John at work goes, well, why should I even try then? Why should I be punctual? Why should I be honest? See where that's going? That is the pathway that coveting, that envying places us on. It seems so innocuous, doesn't it? It seems like, wow, how did I end up in this place? Start small. The way Satan will strap us down is not with some big ball of chain link fence. It's going to be threads. Little thread here, little thread here. And next thing you know, we have hundreds of thousands of threads binding us in a position we don't want to be in. That's how he does it. A little bit at a time. A little bit at a time. So what should we do, Nutnfancy? Blow it off. Concentrate on your own game. I know it's hard to do sometimes. Work as hard as you can. Pray to God. Be honest. Be a true employee. Deliver value. And maybe, just maybe, immediately, maybe even more than immediately, you're not rewarded for that. The upside of going in that pathway has far, far more rewards than going down a coveting pathway and a pathway of bitterness, which will lead to hatred, which will lead and is darkness, which will damage your soul. Remember, you're taking your soul with you. You're not taking all this. You're taking your soul. You're taking you. Make sure you're someone you want to hang around with. Don't envy. Don't covet. Did those people get what they have by ill-gotten means? Who cares? Not my problem. Not my problem. Yeah, but. No. Don't worry about it. Worry about your own game. Yeah, but I work so hard. I don't make any money. Okay, take it up with God. In those quiet moments. See what he says. You might be surprised. You might be surprised that he's opened doors of opportunity for you already. You just didn't realize it because you're too busy being bitter. Truth dart. Because that envying, that coveting, that kind of a strong word, but hatred sometimes blinds us so we can't see those doors. Because we're so worried about, well, look at what he's doing. I hate that guy. I hate that guy. Look at him. There he goes again. I mean, he gets everything. I don't get anything. Meanwhile, there's a door of opportunity right here to your left, or in front of you, or to that side. And you don't notice it because you're too busy ranting. Tell me that's not truth, bro. It's truth. Don't envy. Don't covet. Work as hard as you can. Create opportunities for yourself. Dream big. Go watch my video, Live to Impress Yourself. The whole video is about that. Blow off naysayers. They're always going to try to pull you down and keep you at their level. Oh, you can't do that. What do you think you are? Who do you think you are, man? You think you're some jet pilot? That's what they told me. I was like, I don't know. I'm out of here. I left people like that. To be fair, they didn't actually say it like that, but they did express high doubt that I was able to achieve such a high goal. That for me, a graduate from a high school in northern Alabama with 70 graduating seniors was kind of a long shot, maybe. I guess one thing that I have been able to do is dream big and not limit myself. I credit a lot of that to my dad. Because he told me that. It's like, you can be anything you want. You just got to pay the price. He was right. Don't envy. Try not to participate in strifes. Try to only exercise righteous judgment. And by the way, you can judge. The scriptures do not say you can't judge. You just need to judge righteously. How do I know if I'm judging righteously, Nutnfancy? Again, put that judgment at the judgment bar of God and see if he would agree with what you're judging. It's an easy way. Oh, wait, I'm being harsh. I really don't know that person's situation. I'm being unjust. Yeah, like that. Work on your spirit. That's a good one. I love it, and it's leading off this conversation. Here's another one. I've touched on it in some other videos. In fact, I've had videos out there ever since I started TMP talking about this, and that is lead and live a charitable life. You remember when I mentioned what it's like to be Christ-like? And again, I don't want to get all religious on you, but again, we're to the point now that I have to kind of do that. But I'm trying to speak in generalities, and I think it connects with a lot of people that way. When I said be Christ-like, and I mentioned some of the attributes, I mentioned this one, charitable. Christ was charitable. How often do you and I go through our lives and right beside us, maybe to this side, maybe to that side, is a person who really needs and can use our help? It doesn't have to be money. Maybe it's just a simple, hi, how are you? How are you doing? And listening to them. Maybe that person has no one to talk to, no one that cares about them. I try to do this. I am actually amazed how many people walk past those people. And they're busy with their day. I get it. Everyone's busy with their day. I move at what I always call Mach speed and all the things I need to get done for the project. But I do try to slow it down sometimes and look around and say, is there anyone in my sphere of influence that could benefit with a little bit of love? I go to people that work at restaurants, and it's like one lady, she's in a McDonald's, she's mopping. No one pays her any attention whatsoever. She's an older lady. She doesn't appear to be too healthy, and there she is just working her butt off. When's the last time someone came up to her and said, hey, you're doing a great job. We really appreciate what you're doing. Here's $5. Thank you. It's not much, I know, but thank you. What do you think that does to her day? Do you think you walk away and she goes, oh, look at that guy. He thinks he's so cool? No. It touches her right here. And she feels like, hey, somebody noticed me today. I'm not invisible. Part of that charity is look for invisible people. Not literally, but look for people that have been discounted. Or maybe they haven't been discounted and they're just having a bad day. Look for everybody that needs your help. You'd be amazed at how much you can impact someone's life, even though you don't know them. You're not going to benefit in any way by helping them. That's another hallmark of Christ-like service, by the way. You don't do it to be seen of men. You do it because that person needs help. You know what I've started putting in my prayers? This is what I put in my prayers. I say, God, please lead me to people that can use my help. That's a bold prayer, right? That's a bold prayer. This video is an answer to that prayer, because someone on the other end of this camera needs to hear exactly what I'm saying. And that's why I was told in the middle of the night, get up and make the video. And so I am. And like you, I have my doubts. I'm like, little old me? What difference can I make? Well, a lot, really. Don't ever undersell yourself. Have an impactful life. And it doesn't have to be a big thing. It can be a little thing. I shouldn't tell him that. I don't want to tell him that. All right. I was told to tell you this story, and it happened just 7 days ago. I don't want to tell you this story. But I was told I need to tell you this story. So I was flying someplace at the airport, and I saw this little Latina lady, really sweet lady, probably 30 years old, if that. She had these 3 huge bags. And I speak fluent Spanish. I don't know if you know that. I do. I walked up and started talking to her. Well, she was looking for someone who would talk Spanish. And there was no one around, which is surprising, because usually there's someone around that doesn't. But no one's around, so I stepped in and I started talking to her. I just say, invisible person, here. I want to engage with you and see if I can help. And she was looking where to check her bags. She was flying back to Ecuador, which I thought was neat. And she was speaking in Spanish about all the friends she has back there. And she was coming from her church, and she had a great time. And she bought all these cool gifts to give to her friends. And that's why her bags were so heavy. And trust me, they were heavy. And immediately I was like, oh my goodness, you're going international with 3 big, heavy bags. This is going to be a lot of money. I helped her roll the bags to the check-in counter. And she, again, didn't speak English, or not very good English. And I told the nice ladies there, I said, hey, she's going to Ecuador. She needs to check her bags. And sure enough, they put them on the scale and they go, ooh, that's a big bag. It's heavy. That one is $100. That one's going to be $200. And we'll let you carry that one on the plane. She brought $100 total. So, I asked some questions of ladies. Is there, can she break it down to a 3rd bag and maybe check that? And I'm sorry, it's international, 2 bags only. So it was an impasse. And this nice lady, and let me tell you about her a little bit. She was pure in heart. So maybe it's a blessing, maybe it's a curse that I have, but I can meet someone and I can know almost immediately if they're pure in heart. It's a spiritual gift, I guess, spiritual curse sometimes, because some people aren't. A lot of people aren't. But she was pure in heart, just the kindest, sweetest lady. Married, kids in Ecuador. She lives in Ecuador. She came to Salt Lake to, visit, do church things, I guess, and then buy gifts for her friends. And it was one of those moments that came crystal clear to me, and the voice told me, what are you going to do? Are you going to walk away like everyone else would and just say, good luck? What did Christ do with us, these sinners? What did he do when we can't pay the price? He stepped in. He paid it for us. He pays it for us when we repent. So, Again, I don't want to tell you the story. I brought out my credit card and I was like, charge it. I'll pay it. And that's what happened. And the lady started crying. She goes, you don't even know me, but I feel like you're an angel sent from God. And I told her I'm no angel, but maybe in these few moments I can't act like one. By the way, that's your guys' money. I still carry impressive human money with me, and I have it stored up, and I'll absolutely give that to people like that. So it comes from you. And man, was it a special experience. Stupid thing, right? Stupid thing. It shouldn't count for that much, but in her world, it counted a lot. She was able to take her gifts home. And someone who had nothing to gain by helping her helped her. Now, I make a lot of mistakes. I make a lot of bad judgments on people. I'll be the first to admit that. But that day, I thought I did it right. I listened to God, what He wanted to do. That's another thing that makes you Christ-like, is He's not around. He's watching you. He's wondering what you're going to do. Do what He would do. You want to be happy? Do what Christ would do in a given situation. Tell me you're not happy. Let me ask you this. Remember I told you? Sorry about this, but it is what it is. Remember I told you that this level of happiness, which you are feeling through the camera, I know you are, that this level of happiness transcends what's going on in society. Isn't that weird? That you're like on a higher plane, that like when you're doing goodness like this, it really doesn't matter what's going down. You're going to have a sense of peace, of hope, of love, and I will submit to you in the name of Jesus Christ, protection come over you when you're doing His work. That's another message I'm putting in this video. Do it when no one's looking, when it doesn't count. And again, I honestly had no intention whatsoever of telling you that story. I did not want to tell you that story. But it hits pretty hard spiritually. And I think the Spirit wants that shared because He knows that it hits hard spiritually. And He wants to hit you hard spiritually to bear witness to you that these concepts are true. Remember, here's the next thing. So live a charitable life full of love, serving others, doing the best you can to forgive, by the way, when someone has wronged you. That's a really hard one, by the way. But try. That's all part of charity. Here's another one. To working on your spirit. Again, counterintuitive, but it just came to me when I'm just sitting there with my eyes open at 2 a.m. Hope. Maintain hope. What's the opposite of hope? Despair. Who wants you to be in despair? He wants you to give up. He wants you to say, hey, dude, why even try? Kind of like that example I gave earlier. Why even try? There is no hope. Evil just keeps winning and winning, winning. Why should I do anything? Because God is in control. That's why. And everything you see around you is false. It's fake. It's transitory. It will pass. Do not doubt God. His plan is in complete operation. He knows exactly what He's doing. There's going to be some crazy, wacky stuff going on. You'll have questions. I know you will. I do. Maintain hope. The opposite of hope is despair. And if you fall into despair, then it kind of defeats the whole thing we're trying to do. Know that God loves you. He knows all your faults, all your strong points, everything you've done in life, everything you've repented of. He knows what your potential is. Wherever you are, let's say you're right here. God wants you at the next level. And I'm not talking necessarily about material things. I'm talking about your spirit, the kind of person you are, your integrity, your soul. He wants you up here, up here, up here, up here. Why? Because he wants to give you everything he has. And for that to happen, you need to qualify yourself. If you're down here, he can't just roll you in and know that you're going to handle things right. You ain't. You ain't prepared. You wouldn't feel right. You'd feel very self-conscious and like you're in a place you don't belong. Work to belong in a place like that. Have hope. Don't despair. Believe in yourself. Even though your situation on the other end of this camera may be very dire. I've had multiple TMPers contact me, and they tell me some heartbreaking stories of health problems. We've had TMPers die. I wouldn't say many, but a fair amount of TMPers have died while I've been doing this project. Their family members have contacted me. Live accordingly. You don't know when you're going to die. God does. You don't. Live accordingly. Have hope. Hope. Remember, one way to help is to maintain what I call an eternal perspective. Okay? I'm a gear reviewer, I know. We have a great time on the tabletop, in the bunker, out in the field. I'm going to review a lot more stuff. That's what I do. And God's cool with that, by the way. He doesn't go, oh, you're reviewing another gun. He doesn't care. In fact, he lets me do He lets me do that so I can do this. Because he really likes it when I do this. The gun stuff, he's like, whatever. Probably, I don't know. He's cool with it, though. He doesn't care. But all that stuff is transitory. Having the perfect AR-15 probably will give you some type of, mortal hope. But real hope is spiritual. It's hope in the afterlife. It's faith in God, faith in Jesus Christ, knowing that you are forgiven for bad things you've done and probably will do, just like me. And God knows that. You don't think God knows we're imperfect? He knows that. He doesn't relish it, but he knows, this guy's kind of a dummy sometimes, but I still love him. He's my child. And I'll never, ever, 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 ever give up on him. That's what God says. That's what Jesus Christ says. And they mean it. Doesn't matter where you are in your life, the mistakes you've made. You think all hope is lost. I'm a lost soul. How can I forgive myself? God's not going to forgive me. Wrong. There's hope. God will forgive you. God still loves you. Remember, wherever you are, he's ready to take you to the next level. You just got to open up your heart and do the work. And accept him. Accept light and push out darkness from your life. Whatever's putting darkness in your life. It can be family members. It can be friends. It can be entertainment choices. It can be what you're surfing and looking at online. Push it out of your life. It's making you miserable. See things truly. It's making you miserable. Make good choices. And watch what happens with your spirit. Suddenly, that hope I've been talking about starts coming back to you. You go, hey, I guess I'm not such a loser after all. I can do this. I feel better. Hope starts to infuse and enlarge your soul. That's another thing of hope, is it makes you a better person. Makes you kinder, more loving, more perceptive. And I'm talking not just by looking, but I'm talking spiritually perceptive. I think hopeful Christians are spiritually perceptive because they're looking for opportunities. They know things are going to turn out right. They know things are going to turn out according to God's plan. They're not down in the doldrums being negative and spreading negativity to everybody. Quite the opposite. They're spreading hope. And it transcends, again, the falling part of society, the cultural wars we're experiencing right now. It transcends that. Have hope. The opposite of hope is despair, and despair is acidic. It destroys your faith. It destroys your plans. It destroys your motivation. Watch out. Have hope. And it's hope and faith that will see you through to the end. Those two things are joined together, hope and faith. I'm enjoying this. I hope you are as well. Spirit's strong, bro. I can see why he told me to get to the bunker tonight. Here's the next thing. Working on your spirit. The thing you will take with you, the thing that will truly make you happy in life and put your focus where it needs to be. Knowledge and experience. Again, it's counterintuitive. What the heck are you talking about, Nutnfancy? All that crap you've gone through at work, with your family, with your health problems, believe it or not, that will serve you in the afterlife. It will make you a more empathetic, wiser soul because you went through what you've gone through. And it seems counterintuitive. Again, it's just like, wow, man, I've gone through some stuff. I have shared this before on camera. I'm not going to say that my experiences were more awful than anyone else's, but I've lost more than a few family members. My brother got killed 2 years ago in a Honda Talon side-by-side. Dad got killed in our private plane when I was 20. Verolinus died. She's gone. My little brother died of scarlet fever. I'm not making any of this up, by the way. And I struggled. There are times I'd go, and again, this ties into other things we've talked about, other aspects. There's times I would go, why? For instance, when Dad died, I go, what? He died when he was 49. My dad was 49 when he died. I've outlived my dad at this point, substantially. That's a weird thing. But I would ask why? Why did Dad die? And we had 2 babies die. Man, I asked a lot of questions then, and they weren't too hopeful. I'm going to be honest with you. They were angry. And I'll tell you, and I've said it in some other videos, I was angry at God. I didn't understand it. I didn't accept it. I didn't see why the young unmarried couple, all of 16 and 17 years old, having their healthy baby next to Mrs. Nutnfancy at Deaconess Medical Center in Spokane. There's that coveting thing, right? Window of darkness. Oh, and by the way, I know of what I speak because that happened to me. Because I went down that path. That I was angry at God. I was angry that why, with a loving couple like Mrs. Nutnfancy and I had a decent job. I was a captain in the Air Force, flying KC-135s as an aircraft commander, soon to be an instructor. I was like, why can't I bring a kid into this world? It doesn't make sense. You say, bring children to the world. We're doing our best. We had to work at it. And it just seemed like I was ripped off. Mrs. Nutnfancy felt the same exact way. But what happened is it took us down a road of darkness. Just like I was explaining to you earlier. I've gone down that road. It didn't make me a better person. It did not make me more hopeful, more faithful. It didn't make me happier. It made me miserable. And with all those experiences, and with the loss of my 2 babies, late-term pregnancy, by the way, I finally accepted hope. I finally accepted that God, the Creator, is in charge. And I finally accepted that I don't know all the answers, and it's okay. I don't need to know all the answers. I'm one of His children. I'm not some know-it-all that He has to answer to. I'm just a child. Maybe there's a good reason why things didn't work out the way they did. Probably in your life, there's maybe a good reason why things are not working out the way you wanted. There might be a better plan for you. Hold on. Be patient. You might be surprised what doors open to you, what understanding, what experiences open to you. Once I did that, once I was like, hey, you know what? It's okay. I don't need to know all the answers. And people would find out, about the loss of Dad, the loss of my brother Paul. They would say, oh my gosh, dude, I'm so sorry. That's crushing. I was like, it is. It's horrible. But, I wouldn't burden them with this, but in my heart, I'm saying, but God's in charge. There's a reason why things work the way they do. Now, I'm not going to say that, every death that happens, every loss, every health problem is part of God's grand plan. I think things just happen, but in the big scheme of things, everything's going to be okay. I know that. It's going to be okay. We're going to look back on this life and go, everything I thought was a huge mountain, pretty much a molehill. But to us in this mortal existence, it seems like it's, oh my gosh, it's so heavy. I don't know if I can lift this. It's too much. You can lift it. And if you need some help, you know where to turn. That's where I turned. I turned to God. I was like, I can't deal with this anymore. I need your help. He goes, then you need to trust me. You just need to trust that everything's going to be okay. Things will be okay. And I did. And it made me happy. Hope refilled my soul. Faith refilled my soul. But we're talking about knowledge and experience. How do you think that experience changed me as a human being? Did it make me a worse human or a better human? Did it make Mrs. Nutnfancy a worse woman or a better woman? Did it make us more empathetic or less empathetic with other equally, if not more, challenging trials that other people find themselves in? You know the answer. Maybe that was the whole purpose. Maybe. In order to understand God's mind, you have to kind of go through a little bit of this stuff. Can't be all peaches and cream. There's got to be some suffering. Some suffering. And I'm going to talk about that as my last point, by the way. But that experience, amazingly, I know it sounds so crazy, it makes you more Christ-like. Think about how Christ suffered. Makes you more Christ-like. Makes you grateful for the good times too. Makes you gracious, another godlike quality. Fills you with hope. Also part of that is knowledge. So the more you learn, the more you take with you in the afterlife. And I'm talking about everything. People who play 12 hours of video games a day, and there are people like that, they're not learning a lot. And guess who loves that? They're not even part of the game. He doesn't have to worry about them. It's like he doesn't have to worry, destroy their level of hope, their level of faith. They're already in an artificial world. They're not participating in this mortal existence. Now, I'm not saying you use video games for entertainment, you're on there a couple hours, that's okay. I'm talking about a lifestyle where you retreat into an artificial reality to escape maybe the world problems. Understandable. No judgment. But you need life experiences, real life experiences, fixing things, suffering things, working jobs, failing at things, improving yourself, learning skills of all types and sorts, using those skills to become better, to get a better job. All that is important. To understand about the universe, about the planets, about physics, about mathematics. All that stuff's important. A lot of people go, it's not that important. Well, it's kind of important. Now, it doesn't mean you have to be an expert in those fields, but the more you can learn. You should be a sponge in this short life. Learn from other people. That's my favorite way of learning. When I find someone who has something to teach me, I'm all ears, man. I'm like, feed me, teach me. I don't know about what you're good at. Please teach me. And I drink it up. I ask them questions. What'd you do in that situation? One of the, I don't know if I told you this, but here you go. It just came to my mind. So I met a really religious man. Okay. I had the utmost respect to this person. He had a great life. He had a great family, wife, and he was and had been a P-47 Thunderbolt pilot in World War II. And then he went on, I believe, to fly F-86 Sabres in Korea. Very successful Air Force career. I think he retired as a full bird colonel in 2006. When I found this out, I started being a sponge. I was asking questions. Here we had a man that was kind of where I wanted to be. So his spiritual life was squared away, but he also had a really good temporal life that, he was living a life of service in the military. He was doing things that at the time, and I still do, I respected it. And so I was trying to ask him questions, and he taught me some things. I said, how did you balance working on your spirit, being a man of God, and yet you have these things you have to do? You have to go into combat. You have to kill in combat. You have to fly the F-86, the P-47. He goes, well, what I learned early on is that your family, because I was asking about the family, and maybe sometimes, being a righteous man, hands cupped, God per se, can't be at the forefront of your mind because you have a task at hand. You have to be good at that task. It takes work. It takes preparation. It takes focus. God understands that. He's not expecting you to do anything else. But what I find, this is him talking, what I find is I would shift my priorities that, whether it's combat, when the combat's over, when the tour's done, I go back home. When things settle down a bit, I always try to put my family at the forefront of my life while satisfying my professional obligations. Man, his name was Rose. His last name was Rose. And I just had the highest respect for that guy. Everything he said rang true with me. He goes, you're constantly shuffling priorities. For instance, when you're taking check rides in your aircraft, that's your priority. You can't be with your wife at the time. You can't go on vacation. You can't be at the church choir singing and preaching at the pulpit. You need to be working at your job, your career. And God understands that. He accepts it. He'll bless you in your efforts. That was like a load off my shoulders. Like, wow, that's cool hearing that. And that's how I approached my career in the Air Force. That's how I've approached my career always. I always do that. Shuffling priorities, trying to get them aligned properly when things slow down a little bit. Lastly, good talk. I did mention knowledge experience. Very important to you, working on your spirit. The thing you take with you in the afterlife, the thing that will truly make you happy and give you that sense of satisfaction, that glow inside. Oh, good. You're going to feel this when you start putting these things into practice if you haven't already. You need to accept suffering. Big challenge. Big challenge, because sometimes you'll have a perfect sandcastle built of spirituality, and here comes this big rogue wave that heretofore has not climbed up 100 feet on the beach where you built your sandcastle, and the wave just wipes it out. You have some tragedy that visits you.
Did you get it?
And it is bad. Maybe it's a health problem. Maybe you get fired from your job. Maybe someone in your family who you relied upon, who was your cornerstone in your life, dies. Raise your hand if you've been through that. Multiple times, raise your hand again. It sucks. And it's a great opportunity to lose hope. It's a great opportunity for you to get negative. It's a great opportunity to play the blame game. It's God's fault. It's the hospital's fault. I could have said that. Doctors didn't know what they're doing. I'm going to sue the doctors. That's how I'm going to get my happiness back. No, won't come back. Understand that suffering is a part of this life. You don't need to be all cheery when you go through it. You don't need to act like, oh, cool, something really crappy has happened to me again. I'm so glad. You don't need to be that way, but you do need to trust in God. And keep your focus where it should be, not on this world, not about the things that change day to day, week by week. I tuned the news out a long time ago. I'm happier for that, by the way. Well, some trusted news sources I listen to. No, your focus is on God. And it's going to test you. I'm going to tell you right now, I'll testify to you. It will test you. It will take everything you have in your spirit to stay hopeful and to not get bitter in a lot of these trials that will or probably already have come to you. Now, you're going to see some comments below of people who have gone through these trials. Listen to what they say. Great comments. Great comments are coming on this video. I recommend you read through them because TMP Nation has great people in it. Great people. Great people. So many great comments. Listen to how they got through it. Hey, this happened to me. Nutnfancy mentioned tragedy. This just happened to me. I'm struggling right now. I'm trying to maintain hope. It's rough. I don't know how things are going to turn out, but I trust in my God. And don't just trust in God, but you also do your part. Okay? That's very important. Some people just pray. Hey, please open up the door of opportunity for me. But they don't do anything to create opportunity for themselves. You need to work. Think about all the people who've lost their homes, everything they had in the Maui fire, in tornadoes, in hurricanes, other natural disasters, in World War II. The great battles, Leningrad, Stalingrad, lost everything. There's been a lot of suffering in this world. And I'm not going to tell you that all of it serves God's purposes. I think some of it is just letting evil men do what they're going to do, and they're going to be judged accordingly. And you don't have to worry about people who died righteously. God will take care of that. But he often lets things happen in this life that, we question. We go, why did that happen? Why did that good person, that good family die? How did they need to suffer? How those innocent children get murdered like that? There's a grand plan. Stand by. You'll see all things come out in the end. All justice will be served. It's not up to you. It's not up to, you, me. It's up to God. I think some of us may even feel sorry for such people when we see the judgments that come down upon them. But God is just. He knows everything. He knows our heart's intent. He knows everything. Let us be like Job and keep the faith. Be strong in our trials. We'll have moments of weakness, just like I have many times. And oftentimes I go through this life, wondering what's going to be my next awful trial. I know something bad's coming, and I dread it. I absolutely dread it because I've been through the process before, and I don't like it. I pray for this. I pray that I'll outlive Mrs. Nutnfancy. I don't want her to be alone in life. I think it's my job to take care of her no matter what happens. She has RA. She could be in a wheelchair, disabled. I want to take care of her. That's my job. I want to take care of my kids as much as I can. My grandchildren, if I ever have them, as much as I can. I think those are righteous desires. But who knows? There might be some weird things coming. We just don't know. Work on your spirit. It's the thing you will take with you, whether you want to or not. It is the thing that while you're working on it and making progress working on it, you'll have a feeling of love, hopefully, that you felt throughout this video, because I'm sending it with nothing but love. There's no pride. All I want is to help my brothers, my sisters here in TMP, or whoever shows up and sees this video. When you have that love in your soul, you're going to know you're on the right path. Okay? It's a weird thing, because maybe you're in a dark place in your life right now, and you go, wow, this stuff sounds good. I don't know if I can do it. Start small. Start small. And watch what happens as you start small and you make your way to here it comes again, a more Christ-like spirit. A happier spirit that's based on goodness. That's really what we're talking about. It's based on good. And good always overcomes evil. It stands up to the brightness of the sun, up to God's glory, Jesus Christ's glory. Good will survive. It overcomes everything. Evil cannot survive by its nature. Evil eats itself alive. You're seeing that too. Notice instances of that in this modern world we live in. Evil will eat its own because that's what Satan does. He does not uphold people who follow him. He seeks their absolute misery, their absolute destruction. Jesus Christ, on the other hand, seeks your absolute happiness, your absolute freedom freedom. Freedom to be happy. To overcome the challenges you will and should get in life. You can do it. It is my prayer that I send out to my audience members. And while I was awake earlier, I was like telling God, I was like, I don't really want to do this video. It's so early in the morning. Look, dude, it's coming up on 5 a.m. And I was like, why? I think you've seen the reason why. Because you have the Spirit now. You may not later in the day when distractions rise. Now, don't worry about your sleep. I'll take care of that. Gotcha. I make a lot of mistakes, man, but I try to listen to that still small voice. When I hear it, I'm like, what was that? Oh, okay, I'll do that. Try to do that. And trust me, if it can work with me, it can work with you. It can work with you. But what I was going to tell you is why I was up in this early morning, I was just so humble that I have you guys. It just blows my mind. I was like, I never would have thought that in my life I would be able to connect to so many people. And tears were rolling down my cheek. I was like, I'm so grateful that I have this. I don't do it for fame. I don't care about fame. I hate fame. I care about being real. Working on my own soul. And I don't want to say that, because really when you're working on your own soul, the way you do it is to look outward. You're not looking inward, and I'm glad I remembered to say that. So don't think it's all me. I got to improve myself. You are improving yourself, but the best way to improve yourself is to forget about yourself. I'm so glad I remembered that. But by applying these principles, especially charity, Christ-like service, forget about yourself. Don't worry about yourself. You'll be fine. And while you do that, then you're working on your soul. Yeah, I'm grateful to have you guys. I'm grateful we had this talk in the bunker. Sorry about all the distractions in the background, but you know how I roll. We have fun here, but we also get real. Real. And I will use this particular video, Work on Your Spirit, if that's what I end up calling this, as a touchstone. So when other guys who maybe missed the video, please share it, by the way. Subscribe, hit the notification bell wherever I post this. I hope it gives them hope. I hope they can overlook the darkness of today's world and find lightness in this message. I guarantee you, promise you, like I'm anyone to promise, but I'm told to do it in the name of Jesus Christ. If you apply these principles, you will be happy. Just these principles. I mean, I could have talked about 20 more. Just these principles. You'll be happy. You'll enlarge your soul. You'll understand God better too. You're going to say, oh, that's why he does that. You'll understand God's mind better. It's a lot for us to understand. We have very finite minds. This is Nutnfancy. Time to wrap it up. Thank you so much for watching from start to finish. You can see I didn't really use this too much. Thank you. Come see us again. We got a lot more fun stuff to do. Maybe some real chats like this again too. Over and out.